Hey buddy, watch this.
Hello, hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Hearthstone is the game. And today I'm going to take a look at my top 10 4-mana cards. These are the 4-drops or 4-mana spells that I think are the very best cards in the game at that mana cost. Now when I say best, I don't necessarily mean they'd win in a fight on an empty board. What I mean is they're the cards that have been the most influential and impactful in the metagame, with a slight preference towards neutral cards because neutral cards are played in a wider variety of decks than class cards. But that said, this list will still be mostly very powerful class card 4-mana spells and minions. So without further delay, starting with number 10, my 10th best 4-mana card in Hearthstone is actually a pretty interesting one. That's Sinjin Shieldmaster. Now this is just a basic card that's included for free with the game, but that doesn't mean it's a bad one. Sinjin Shieldmaster is one of the go-to mid-range taunts in the game. In many ways it was supplanted by Sludge Belcher, but with the arrival of the standard format, Sinjin Shieldmaster will be played even more regularly unless we get a new card that's better in this slot. But even with Sludge Belcher and a variety of other better taunts that have been released since then, this card just falls at the exact right mana cost and has the right health and attack that it's always traded pretty efficiently with early game minions, meaning that it has actually snuck its way into a variety of powerful decks, even though it doesn't seem like a powerful card outright, because it's just pretty boring standard taunt. But that said, it still gets played, people still love it, it still has big impacts on games, and that's why it just barely works its way onto this list. Moving on to the 9th best 4-mana card in Hearthstone, we're going to take a look at the Warlock card Voidcaller. This is a 4-mana 3/4, which isn't too fantastic as far as body is concerned, but it has one of the most interesting and powerful death rattle effects in the game. Anytime Voidcaller dies, you get to put a random demon from your hand into the battlefield, and what that means is that even though this body itself is not particularly strong, what happens is that you'll get a card like Doomguard on the board for free thanks to Voidcaller, which is like a 5-mana tempo gain, and it's actually even better than that because Doomguard is really like a 7-mana card with a penalty. You get to negate that penalty with Voidcaller. You still get to take advantage of the charge. You can also get a minion like this one, Ganis, out onto the board for free, which is absolutely outstanding when you can get a 9-mana monster like Ganis totally for free, just thanks to a tiny little 4-mana card. That's what makes Voidcaller so powerful and has made it a centerpiece for a variety of different Warlock decks, including fast ones like Zoo, which gets the Doomguard out, or slow ones like Demon Handlock or just Demon Lock to play cards like Ganis. So it's a very powerful card, a very fun one as well, and that's why it makes this list. The next 4-mana card, number 8, is actually also a Warlock card, but this time it's Implosion. This 4-mana spell is so popular that it basically fits in every Warlock deck there is out there right now. That means it fits in slow Warlock decks like Reno Lock or Demon Lock or Handlock. It still fits in Zoo decks. It fits in like board rush zoos that focus on getting lots and lots of minions out. No matter the Warlock, Implosion finds a way to make the list. So why is it so good? Well, it's because when Implosion hits well and at the top end of its scale, it's doing 4 damage for 4 mana as a spell, which isn't really all that bad right there. It's just a little bit overcosted as a 4 damage spell. But you also get a 4/4 body, because you get 4 1/1 imps, which also isn't bad for its cost. So when this card hits its maximum randomness with 4 damage and 4 minions, it's absolutely insane. The value is off the charts. But even when it only hits for 2 and 2, Implosion's still not too bad. Like, getting 2 minions doing 2 damage a lot of the times is pretty good value for 4 mana. So whether it hits for 2 or the good instances where it hits for 3 or 4, Implosion is packing a lot of value into a single card and allowing you to both control your opponent's board and establish your own, which is very much a hallmark of the Warlock class. So moving on to the number 7 slot. The 7th best 4-mana card in Hearthstone is the Akamai Soul Priest. This, of course, is a priest card, a 4-mana 3/5 minion, which is a nice stat allocation that's pretty standard for what you want as a 4-drop. It needs to have 5 health. 3 attack is good because it trades into so many different things. Well, but Akamai Soul Priest actually has an incredibly powerful effect as well, which is what makes it the staple of Priest that it is. Your cards and powers that restore health now deal damage instead. That makes your hero power a 2 damage ping, which is so good. That makes a flash heal a 5 damage burst spell. There are so many ways to leverage that. Zombie chows, their negative death rattle suddenly becomes a positive death rattle. The flexibility that this card affords makes it a true staple in mid-range control. Virtually every kind of priest has a way to fit an Akamai Soul Priest into its list. Moving on to the number 6 slot, we're going to head over to Druid and take a look at a card by the name of Swipe. This 4-mana spell is really one of the best removal spells in the game as far as I'm concerned, because it's not just a removal spell. In a class like Druid where you're trying to do damage to the enemy's face, a lot of times Swipe will just give you lethal or set up the combo to finish them off. So, has some flexibility, but it's really the way the Swipe works that makes it so good. Not only does it do 4 damage to a single target, but it also does 1 damage to everything else, and there are so many instances in which one thing will have a little bit more health than all the other minions around it. So Swipe is good for picking off of a big target, also knocking down a few little ones. You can even use it on the enemy's face to clear a bunch of 1/1 tokens as well. So Swipe is fantastic at removing. It has flexibility. It's in every Druid deck that has ever existed for a very good reason. This is a fantastic card. The 5th best 4-mana card in Hearthstone is a Fireball. The Mage burst damage spell, and probably the best burst damage spell in the game. Yes, it's another basic card, much like Swipe or Sinjin Shieldmaster, but that doesn't make it a bad one. For 4 mana, you're getting 6 damage, which is incredibly efficient, and it's just the best way to pack a lot of damage into a single card that's not Pyroblast. And it's actually even more efficient than Pyroblast if you look at the numbers. So it's perfect for mages who often want to do lots of damage very quickly. So you'll see it in Tempo Mage, you'll see it in Freeze Mage, you'll see it in Grinder type mages. Every mage out there likes to run a Fireball, and that's because it's just such a scary card. You know that there's always a chance you're about to take 12 damage from a pair of Fireballs right to the face, and that makes Mage a very consistent and threatening class. Moving on to the 4th best 4-mana card in Hearthstone, we're heading to Warriors, and we're going to look at Deathbite. This is really one of the best weapons in the game, if not the best weapon in the game. Deathbite just does everything that Warriors want it to do. Not only does it allow you to do 8 damage either to the opponent's face or more likely to minions, which is fantastic. The Death Rattle synergizes so well with the Warrior kit, and that you like damaging your own things, you like damaging other minions that you might be able to execute, for instance. It's just perfect for the class. I can't imagine them designing a weapon that really fits Warriors any better. And Warriors already have some good weapons on top of that. So Deathbite fits into every Warrior archetype, whether they're fast, they're slow, it really doesn't matter. Deathbite is a perfect fit for the class, and that's why, even though it's a class card, it actually still ranks very highly on this list. But that said, this is the last of the class cards that are going to make it on my top 10 4-mana cards. All that's left are a few neutral cards, and again, I like to put neutral cards near the top, because these are the kinds of cards that are going to see play in multiple decks across various classes. So I like to think they get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there. So the number 3 4-mana card in Hearthstone is actually a card by the name of Twilight Drake. This is a monster of a minion that would probably win in a fight of most 4-drops in the game. It has 4 attack and 1 health at its default state, which doesn't sound very good, but of course this battlecry gain 1 health for each card in your hand. Twilight Drake is most synonymous with handlock decks of old, or currently, in which it would get something like an extra 8 or 9 health on turn 4 when it's played, making it a 4-8, 4-9. But even when this card's like a 4-5 or a 4-6, it's just still a lot of value packed into a single body. And the extra 2 or 3 health compared to something like a Chillwind Yeti makes all the difference, because Twilight Drake sets up for taunts so well, it sets up trades perfectly. This card is just a monster of a body for only 4 mana. Now that said, it doesn't get played necessarily in a lot of decks outside of the traditional handlock, but we have seen it in Priest and some Weird and any kind of Dragon archetype decks as well. And since it's a part of the classic set, I think we'll see it continue to be a staple at that 4-mana slot for a very long time. So Twilight Drake, the third best 4-drop at Hearthstone. And now on to the top 2. Starting off with number 2, and that is Defender of Argus. 2/3 body for 4 mana. Doesn't sound great, but of course Defender of Argus is all about the battle cry. Anytime you play this card, it gives adjacent minions +1/+1 and taunt. So usually what that means is you're going to be gaining 2/2 in total stats, giving the total stat value of this card of something like a 4/5, which of course is good for a 4-drop. Plus, you're also getting 2 taunts out of it. So this is like better than Ascension Shieldmaster as long as you have minions on board. Defender of Argus is in so many different decks and fits so well. I guess most notably, it fits in Warlock decks like Zoo and Handlock variants because it's just so good at building and defending a board, which is what Warlocks want to do. But it really can work in almost anything just because there's so much value packed into it and so much potential for it to dominate the board anytime that you play it. Defender of Argus can change games all on its own, and that's what makes it the second best 4-drop to me. But it's not the best. I think everyone who's ever played Hearthstone probably knows which card is going to take the top slot, and I really don't even need to say all that much about it. Of course, the best 4-drop in Hearthstone is the Piloted Shredder. This is the ultimate value card in the game, and arguably one of the best cards that Hearthstone has to offer. It's just a 4/3, of course, but the Death Rattle effect is so incredibly strong. You get a free 2-mana minion, which means sometimes you might just get a Millhouse Mana Storm for free, putting the total stat value of this card at something like an 8/7. It's incredibly difficult to deal with, very sticky thanks to the dual-bodied nature. It trades efficiently into so many different things, and you never hate to see this card, whether it's on turn 4 or turn 10. It's probably a good turn to play Piloted Shredder, and that, of course, is why it is the best 4-mana card in Hearthstone. So there you have it. That's my top 10. If you have a different top 10 you'd like to share, drop it in the comments. I'd be happy to hear it. If you think I'm crazy, if I missed a card, if I ranked something out of order, just let me know. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, game on.